Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Aliens expected diplomacy. Got humanity's most savage space fleet instead. The Eigen considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy. For thousands of years, they had traveled the stars, discovering countless worlds with simple life forms, but never encountering true intelligence like their own. Their society had eliminated conflict, disease, and hardship long ago, evolving into beings of pure logic and harmony. When the unusual signals reached their monitoring stations, many dismissed them as natural phenomena, but Director Hyen, always curious about the unknown, convinced the High Council to investigate. This pattern suggests an artificial origin, she explained, pointing to the repeating sequences in the data. It's crude but deliberate. The Council reluctantly approved the mission, assigning their newest diplomatic vessel, the Serene Harmony, with its pearl-white hull flowing in graceful curves like frozen water. The ship embodied the Elysian values of beauty and perfection. Inside, the crew of 12 moved through rooms filled with living light and surfaces that responded to thought. First Officer Talwan had served with Director Hyun for over 20 years. He respected her intellect but worried about her fascination with primitive species. Director, we should maintain standard observation protocols, he suggested, as they entered the distant solar system. This signal could be natural, or from a pre-space civilization accidentally creating transmission patterns. Hyen smiled. Let's see what we find. First, the signal originated from the third planet of an ordinary yellow star. As they approached, the aliens detected energy signatures throughout the system, on the fourth planet, several moons, and even in the asteroid belt. They had spread beyond their home world. Jiho observed, his fingers dancing over the communication console, but their technology is inconsistent. The scans revealed spacecraft that confused the Elysians, made of metals and composites. They were angular with exposed components and what appeared to be primitive engines, yet somehow these vessels could travel at speeds that should have been impossible for such technology. When Talwan brought the first images to Hyen, his confusion was evident. Director, these spacecraft appear primitive, he reported, displaying holographic images of bulky, angular human vessels. Yet their propulsion systems achieved speeds our model suggested impossible for their development stage. Hyen studied the images carefully. The human ships looked as if they had been assembled from parts rather than grown as a unified whole like Elysian vessels. Frooster pods stuck out awkwardly, antennas extended in all directions, and patches of different colored material suggested repairs or modifications. Curious, their designs prioritize function over form, with no aesthetic considerations whatsoever, she noted, tracing the outline of one vessel with her finger. Engineer Sangman joined them, adding his observations. They're using nuclear fission for power generation on some ships, fusion on others, some appear to use chemical propellants for maneuvering. It's as if they're using 3 different technological areas simultaneously. Hyen's interest grew. Perhaps they value keeping older technology operational rather than replacing it, a resource conservation strategy. As the Serene Harmony moved closer to the third planet, they detected a defensive perimeter of satellites and larger vessels. The Elysians transmitted the universal greeting, mathematical sequences and basic elemental information designed to demonstrate peaceful intentions. They waited for the expected response, excitement, wonder, perhaps even fear. Most developing species reacted with awe upon first contact. Some primitive civilizations even worshipped the aliens briefly before understanding they were simply travelers from another world. But the human fleet maintained silence. Their ship shifted position, forming patterns that the alien computers couldn't classify as either welcoming or threatening. Why aren't they responding with the expected enthusiasm? Asked communications specialist Jiho. Running diagnostics on my equipment. Any developing species should be overjoyed at first contact. Security Officer Juno, usually quiet during missions, spoke up. Those formations, they're positioning themselves to maximize coverage of all approach vectors to their planet. Hyen's expression changed as she realized the implications. They're preparing for possible hostility. This thought disturbed the Elysians deeply. Their civilization had evolved beyond violence so long ago that they struggled to recognize it in others. The idea that an intelligent species might respond to visitors with preparations for conflict rather than welcome was almost incomprehensible. "Have we done something to frighten them?" asked Medical Officer Su Jin. "Perhaps our approach was too direct." Hyun considered this. "Send the greeting again, but include visual representations of our crew. Show them we are biological beings, not unlike themselves." The Elysians transmitted new messages, including images of themselves, tall, slender beings with luminescent skin and large eyes adapted for their dim home world. They added simplified diagrams of their society, art, and scientific achievements. The human fleet remained silent, but they detected increased communication between the Earth vessels. The ships maintained their position, neither approaching nor retreating. "They're studying us," Heian realized, "assessing whether we're a threat." Calwan looked troubled. "Director, if they assume hostile intent from visitors, what does that suggest about their own history?" Heian felt the first flicker of unease spread through her. The realization came slowly, then all at once: these humans had achieved space travel without first achieving lasting peace among themselves. "They expected visitors might come with weapons rather than knowledge," she said quietly. "They have reasons to be cautious." The serene harmony hung in space, its perfect form a stark contrast to the functional human ship surrounding it. Two very different paths of evolution faced each other across the void, one built on harmony and beauty, the other apparently forged in caution and conflict, and neither knew what to make of the other. After 3 hours of waiting, the humans finally responded to the Elysian signals. The main view screen on the Serene Harmony flickered to life, revealing the interior of the human command vessel. The Elysian leaned forward, eager for their first glimpse of this mysterious species. The bridge of the human ship shocked them. Unlike the alien vessel's open, flowing spaces filled with living light, the human command center was cramped and utilitarian. Screens and control panels covered every surface, exposed wiring ran along the ceilings. People sat at designated stations, surrounded by equipment that seemed bolted together rather than grown or crafted. In the center stood a human in a dark uniform with markings on the shoulders. His face showed signs of age, lines around the eyes and mouth that aliens hadn't seen in their own kind for thousands of years. "I am Captain Danon of the Earth Defense Fleet," he announced without preamble. "This is restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Director Heian blinked in surprise at the bluntness of the human's words. Among the Elysians, such direct demands would be considered shockingly rude. First contact conversations typically began with philosophical exchanges and poetry. "We are travelers from the Elysian Harmony," she replied, trying to keep her voice gentle and welcoming. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. We detected your signals and wished to establish peaceful contact with your species." Captain Danon's expression didn't change. "You crossed 3 warning beacons before entering our defense perimeter. Explain." Heian glanced at Jiho, who looked equally confused. "We detected no warning signals. We intended no violation of your space." The human captain conferred briefly with an officer beside him. The Elysians noted how the humans stood close together, speaking in low voices rather than using the neural communication the Elysians preferred. "Our beacons transmit on standard frequencies used by all known spacefaring races in this sector." Captain Dan finally said, "Either your systems failed to detect them, or you chose to ignore them." Calwan checked their sensor logs quickly. "Director, they use electromagnetic pulse sequences. Our systems registered them as natural phenomena from their star, different technology." Heian murmured before addressing the human again, "Captain, we come from beyond what you consider known space. Our communication systems differ from those you're familiar with." The misunderstanding was unintentional. This explanation seemed to satisfy the human, who nodded slightly. "Very well. State the purpose of your visit." "We wish to learn about your civilization," Heian explained, to exchange knowledge and establish friendly relations between our peoples. For the first time, something resembling curiosity crossed the captain's face. You've traveled far for a cultural exchange. Understanding diverse life forms is the core purpose of our existence, Heian replied. The conversation continued with the humans asking pointed questions about Elysian capabilities, territory, and intentions, and the Elysians in turn inquired about human history and culture. What emerged shocked the visitors. The humans described a history filled with conflict, wars that had raged across their planet for resources, ideology, and territory. Even their ventures into space had begun as competitions between nations. You achieved space flight through military competition? Mew asked, unable to hide her dismay. Our early space programs were extensions of missile development, Captain Danon acknowledged without apparent shame. Later, space became a domain for cooperation, but defense has always remained a priority. After the initial discussions, the humans offered to show their visitors more of the ship. As they toured the vessel, the Elysians' confusion only deepened. In the engine room, do you notice multiple backup systems for every critical function? Why so much redundancy? He asked Engineer Q1. Because things break, the human replied simply, especially in combat or unusual spatial phenomena. Someone was particularly disturbed by the manual override controls visible throughout the ship. Their systems have manual overrides for everything, he later reported to his colleagues. They design with failure in mind. The medical bay revealed more surprises. The humans had not eliminated disease or physical suffering, instead, they had developed treatments and pain management techniques. Some crew members bore scars or artificial replacements for lost limbs. Why not regrow the missing appendages? Asked the ship's physician. We're working on that technology, she replied. For now, prosthetics are more reliable. The concept that technology might be unavailable or imperfect was foreign to the aliens, who had long ago mastered biological manipulation. Most disturbing was their visit to what the humans call the recreation deck, where crew members engaged in physical contests that appeared painful, striking padded opponents, lifting heavy objects, or running until exhaustion. This is entertainment? Mew asked, watching two humans grapple on a mat. Combat training and stress relief, explained Lieutenant Coben. It builds strength and unit cohesion. When the tour concluded, the alien diplomats requested time to confer privately in a small room provided for their use. They shared their observations. Their technological development is uneven, one noted. Advanced in weapons and propulsion, but primitive in medicine and comfort. Mew, who had spent the most time engaging with the humans about their culture, explained, they celebrate warriors in their literature. Their greatest heroes are those who prevail against overwhelming odds, who endure unimaginable hardship. But why? Someone asked. What benefit comes from glorifying suffering? They believe it strengthens them, Mew replied. They have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. They see hardship as a forge that tempers their character. The aliens fell silent, trying to process this concept. Their own society had eliminated all forms of discomfort millennia ago, pain, struggle, scarcity, all had been engineered away. The idea that suffering might have value was entirely alien to them. Perhaps, Duyum suggested hesitantly, their environment required this approach, their planet seems more hostile than ours. Or, someone added, they simply found a different path to the stars than we did. When they rejoined the humans for final discussions, someone approached with new eyes. These aren't primitive beings fumbling with advanced concepts, they are a species that has embraced a fundamentally different philosophy of existence, one that accepts pain as inevitable and seeks to use it rather than eliminate it. The humans' final gift to the alien delegation was a data crystal containing Earth literature, art, and history. Mew began reviewing it immediately. Upon returning to their shuttle, their stories were full of struggle, she told the others. Heroes who bleed, suffer, lose what they love, yet continue, they call it determination. I believe we have no equivalent word. The shuttle detached from the Indomitable, returning to the serene harmony behind them. The human vessel remained vigilant, its weapon systems neither activated nor fully dormant, ready like its crew for whatever might come next. The diplomatic exchange had progressed for nearly 6 hours when the sensors on both the human and Elysian vessels detected approaching ships. At first, the humans suspected it might be their own patrol vessels responding to the presence of the alien craft, but Captain Danon's expression darkened as the readings became clearer, unidentified vessels approaching at high speed. Announced the tactical officer, 7 ships, configuration matches the Orion Collective. Director Hyan noticed the sudden tension that filled the human bridge. "Are these your allies?" she asked. "Pirates," Captain Danon replied flatly. "Scavengers who prey on shipping lanes and isolated outposts. They must have detected our signals and seen an opportunity." The tactical display showed 7 ships approaching in an attack formation. They were smaller than the human defense vessels but more numerous. Their design was even more utilitarian than the human ships, cobbled together from salvaged parts with weapons bolted onto any available surface. Their charging weapon systems, reported the tactical officer, along with jamming communications. Hyan conferred quickly with her crew through their neural link. "We must withdraw," she decided. "Our vessel is not designed for conflict. We will retreat to neutral space and attempt diplomatic communication with these newcomers." The alien ship began powering its engines, preparing to leave the system. Violence violated their most fundamental principles. In the 5,000 years since their last war, no Elysian had harmed another sentient being. They would rather abandon the diplomatic mission than engage in conflict. Captain Danon watched this with disbelief. "Director, these pirates aren't interested in diplomacy. They want your technology and will kill your crew to get it. We cannot participate in violence," Hyan explained. "Our society has evolved beyond such responses." The captain stood straighter, his decision made. "The alien vessel is under Earth protection," he announced to his crew. "Contact all ships in the defense perimeter, defensive formation Delta 6. The human crews moved with practiced efficiency. Within moments, their vessels had repositioned, forming a protective barrier between the alien ship and the approaching pirates. The serene harmony sensors showed human ships moving at speeds that stressed their structural integrity. Crews pushed to their physical limits as they maneuvered into position. "What are they doing?" asked Talwan, watching the tactical display. "They're shielding us with their own vessels." Medical Officer Yana replied, her voice barely audible, "They're making themselves targets." The pirates fired first, energy weapons and guided projectiles streaked across space toward the human defensive line. Point defense systems activated automatically, intercepting many but not all of the attacks. Several human ships took direct hits, their hulls breaching in explosions of air, debris, and, occasionally, crew members. The aliens watched in horror. Death was almost unknown in their society. To see beings die violently, their bodies torn apart by explosive decompression or energy weapons, was beyond their comprehension. But what happened next shocked them even more. The damaged human ships didn't retreat despite breached hulls and failing systems. They maintained position, returning fire while repair crews in protective suits worked frantically to seal compartments and restore critical systems. "Captain Defiant has lost primary power and life support," reported the communications officer. 23 crew members unaccounted for. "Tell Commander Minwoo to switch to auxiliary power and maintain position," Dean ordered. "Send rescue shuttles for survivor recovery." The humans launched small vessels that darted between the larger ships, retrieving floating bodies and escape pods. These rescue craft were minimally armed and highly vulnerable, yet they flew directly into the combat zone, risking additional lives to save the already wounded, Yen observed. "The logical approach would be to sacrifice the few for the many," one noted on the view screen, as they watched a human rescue shuttle take a glancing hit from a pirate weapon. The small craft tumbled out of control, leaking atmosphere. Another rescue vessel immediately changed course to intercept it, despite being targeted by enemy weapons. The battle continued for 27 minutes. 3 pirate vessels were destroyed outright, their reactors destabilized by human weapons. 2 more sustained critical damage and began to retreat. The final 2 attempted to break through the defensive line to reach the alien ship but were intercepted by human vessels that deliberately placed themselves in harm's way throughout the engagement. Captain Diane remained standing, issuing orders calmly despite the chaos around him. When his own ship took a direct hit to the bridge, shattering part of the view screen and killing 2 officers instantly, he wiped blood from a cut on his forehead and continued coordinating the defense. The aliens found themselves unable to look away. They had never witnessed such violence, but also had never seen such focused determination and self-sacrifice. Near the end of the battle, a pirate weapon struck an already damaged human vessel. The ship's reactor began an uncontrolled cascade. "Phoenix reactor critically damaged," reported the tactical officer, containment failing.